Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment you are going to hear the voice of a man who will tell you some tremendously important facts, some amazing facts. The voice of a man who has made a discovery that is revolutionizing human thought.
Welcome to the Reality Revolution. Today is a glorious day for the Reality Revolution. I have one of the most incredible guests I've ever had, the one and only Mike Dooley. Mike Dooley, you may know from the movie The Secret, is a prolific writer who has written some of my very favorite books. And more importantly, his writing style is amazing. He talks about the law of attraction, and he is continuously talking about the Great Awakening. He has a book coming out with a number of authors called The Great Awakening that discusses our current shift and what's happening in the world. Honestly, if I was having a discussion with my friend the other day, if I was going to have a Mount Rushmore of the law of attraction, I think that Mike would probably be on it. And I've learned so much from what Mike has taught, and I'm just super honored, starstruck to have the one, the only Mike Dooley. You may know him from his Notes from the Universe, from his incredible books, Infinite Possibilities, The Art of Living Your Dreams. There's just so many things to mention, but it's just glorious to have you. So welcome to the Reality Revolution, Mike.
Brian, I'm honored by your kind and generous words, and I'm inspired by your own life's work. So I think we're both getting a kick out of this. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, yeah, you've talked about it quite a bit. And when I look at your background, you're an accountant from an entirely different world. And something obviously inspired you more than just to talk about it with your friends, but to literally change your entire life and make this the focus of your life. Can you talk a little bit about that turning point, that point where you decided, I want to focus my life on talking about metaphysics,
my background's pretty conventional. I mean, my background now, back when I was a teenager and in my 20s and picking college degrees, University of Florida, certified public accountant, Price Waterhouse. I've always wanted to live the most rocking life possible. My mom was really good at helping me to believe that anybody can do anything. And I wanted abundance. I wanted friends. I wanted international travel. But on the side, almost back to my first teenage memories, I was totally into like, why the hell are we here? And like, what's going on? And everybody dies, like everybody, and they're gone forever. Like, what's the point? Really, it was to the point where, I was like doubled over sometimes on the college campus. Like, what is the point? And unbeknownst to me at the time, when you mull over any question, including deep, profound questions, and I'm not unique this way, the law of attraction, that a question presupposes an answer does exist. I mean, amongst the beauty and the splendor of these sacred jungles of time and space, 100 million species on this planet, 10 sextillion stars, it's like, there's got to be a point. And asking those kinds of questions, or asking smaller questions, how can I move towards abundance? How can I find the love of my life? How can I improve my circumstances? That precipitates twings or hits of intuition that are your connection to your higher self that will lead you to the answers you're looking for. And every question has an answer. Absolutely every question. And I'm not one of those people who think, so everybody has their own truth. That sounds kind of nice on the surface, but that's when people throw away their power. There is a truth, it's absolute, and everyone has their own path to that truth. There are a lot of roads to Rome, Brian, but none of those roads changes Rome. And the truths I'm talking about, that we are of the divine, by the divine, for the divine, that we're here by choice, that we knew what we were doing from the zenith of our magnificence, that our thoughts would unfailingly become the things and events of our lives, that we are creators, that love is the glue, and everything plays to our greater good, whether we can see that as it plays out or not. These are the truths that I was looking for, and from them we can find our power, we get traction. And so I set out to live a conventional rocking life, wanting to move towards abundance and freedom and joy and achieve that. But in the back of my mind was always, wanting to know more about the nature of reality, more about how I could leverage my power. I certainly wasn't challenge or problem free at any point in my life. So when those things crop up, it's like, how am I going to deal with this? What am I going to do? I have the power. And that alone was enough to bring me the kind of answers that would bridge chasms and ultimately make my life take off. After 6 years with Price Waterhouse, really having that, having a moment where I was like, if I don't leave this, and I didn't want to stay there forever, I'm never going to leave. And so I quit cold turkey upon the announcement of my promotion to manager. Never looked back, did not know what I was going to do next, sold my condo, moved to Orlando, Florida, teamed up with my mother and brother. And since we were all three into the Seth material, Richard Bach, Ramtha, Emmanuel, channeled works, we spoke the same language, and we decided to start a t-shirt company that went gangbusters for 10 years. Then it was the dark night of my soul. We liquidated. I was still ahead financially. And that was the year 2000, pretty auspicious. And I started sending out the kind of emails I wanted to receive on this new thing called the internet. It was new to me back in 2000, practically. And those emails turned into notes from the universe. They still go out to this day. They're a free service, but it's created a platform upon which I've written books, delivered talks to like 40 odd countries, 180 cities, most of which multiple times, hosted world tours, and do everything I run now at tut.com. Literally the life of my dreams, where I am immersed in teaching and learning about the truths of reality, so that not only can I get my groove further on, but I can help other people do the same thing. And ironically, when your cups start overflowing and life is just so blessed, you start viewing yourself as more than just yourself. Your definition of self expands. And one of the things I'm driven by as significantly as my own joy, and I've never lost sight of that, is wanting to enhance the happiness of other people. And so we've got charity work and reach out programs, training trainers, and I continue to learn and teach the things that I'm learning. And of late, the last 5 years, it's been all about the Great Awakening, putting into context what the ancient prophecy makers have been whispering since time began, since recorded time began. The Great Awakening is upon us.
Yeah, from the very beginning of your writings, one thing almost from the very beginning of your writings, I noticed a palpable excitement about what was happening in the moment. You were talking about, this is a special time. I can feel the difference. I can see the difference. When my thoughts were creating things before, now they're creating things much faster. I'm seeing these differences in the world. And so that's one of the callings to the Great Awakening, is that people are seeing this shift with hundreds of people I've interviewed and thousands more that I've talked to. It's not just a theoretical philosophical thing that there's this Great Awakening. It is a person by person saying, something incredible is happening right now. That's what's so amazing about this, is that the Great Awakening is firsthand witnessed by thousands of people across the world, not just the utterings of philosophers or even channelers, right?
Yeah, this is the arc and the evolution of consciousness. And I know that might sound like a mouthful. We'll dissect it in a minute. That was prophesized and has been long anticipated. And exactly what you said, Brian, the things that were not possible with regard to personal manifestations 6 years ago, 6 months ago, are now possible. The energy is shifting and changing. And that means our dreams and our fears can come to pass much quicker, which is why it's so important to have a strong underpinning, realizing our power and exercising it through daily choices to the best and highest of our ability, which does not take very much, but accepting responsibility, and asking these questions will yield the answers and unveil your power, which is why those listening and tuning in right now are not here by accident. This was a calling that they heard, and serendipitously, lo and behold, I hope to give some answers and bring some clarity to how to harness these shifting, changing winds of change that are now upon us, that were prophesized as the apocalypse. I mean, the destruction of humanity as we knew it, or better, the deconstruction of our civilization as we've known it, to make for a brand new construction. This is also Armageddon. We are literally living through Armageddon right now, which was prophesied as the final battle. Final, not as in the end of our civilization, but final because at this point in the trajectory of our awakening, our conscious awakening, the evolution of consciousness again, we are seeing the last fights between truth and ignorance, truth and naivety. The light is dawning. It is unmistakable. People are finally talking about things they've never talked about, which means things can be healed, whether it's racism or sexual identification, gender discussions, and so many other things. People are talking about that now. They weren't even allowed to talk about it before. The fear was so steeped in all of us. But now, with these rapid fire changes and thoughts becoming things quicker than ever before, the discussion is brewing. And because we have come so far from where we were, hunters and gatherers, living by daylight alone because we hadn't controlled the flame or electricity. I mean, now we all have the ability to be armchair philosophers, and good on us for earning that. We've done so well for ourselves, so much to celebrate, and so much good is now at our fingertips and in coursing through our lives and our veins. Now we're asking those questions. Now we're insisting on answers. Now we're cleaning out the house, and so the final battle, because ignorance is on its last legs. Truly, a generation from now, even sooner, even today in quarters and pockets of the world, we are moving with the light and the love that will usher in a heaven on earth. We are about to see change at such a pace and such a speed that we would have said impossible, not even believable for a Hollywood movie. It won't fly. No one will buy it, but it's going to be our lives. And it's going to come with some bumps in the road. There are a lot of people out there, that like things the way they used to be. They want things to go back in time, and they're resisting. We don't need to talk about that. They're going to try to shut us up, but you cannot turn back this tide of love, clarity, truth, and magnificence. And although when it boils up, it's like, wow, man, people are gone off their rocker. Well, that's just the noise between those in resistance and those who are timidly coming on board and saying, I'll think about that in a new way from now on. And so the final battle is at hand. There's going to be some bumps in the road. I don't know how big they'll be. I don't know how bad they'll be. I expect fully that most of our systems, government, commerce, monetary, will probably start having cracks. Many will collapse, making way for better systems that are long overdue, that will serve everyone. And this doesn't mean anybody's going to have to give up their piece of the pie. It just means more people can have that pie. These are the single most exciting times to be alive. And we've earned our place here through incarnations and other experiences, and being of the character that we are, where we can carry it off and bring it forth. We have passed those tipping points where some of the earlier prophecies and even earlier channeled work in the 70s and 80s were prophesizing quite a lot of doom at the turn of the millennium. We've passed that. We've made better choices. We're on our way, but there will still be some bumps in the road, as there have been. Par for the course, No one can take from you your happiness, your joy, your freedom to choose your thoughts, your words, and your behavior wisely. And for you, heaven on earth awaits.
It's interesting how there is a connection between creating your reality and the law of attraction and the Great Awakening. They're uniquely people that are interested in one are interested in the other. And so what clearly happens, what you and I are both doing is seeking out the knowledge of higher density, higher dimensional beings, whatever sort of beings that maybe have gone through this process before, because what naturally would happen
Absolutely.
if we were creating our reality faster, things are happening faster. The next question, we're all creators, is what are we creating? And so everything we create becomes a choice. Are we going to create around the fears we have? Are we going to create around what loves and joys? And are we going to create for ourselves? Are we going to create for other people? And so it seems like a very simple duality, but it seems that that's what we're going through, is making a choice. We're making a choice between what we're creating, what kind of a world we're choosing, right?
Yeah, that's exactly where we are. And the law of attraction, as showcased in The Secret, um, really struck a nerve because the truth is in every breath we take. It's in every beat of our heart. It's in our DNA. The truth will set us free, as it was said before. The truth being that we are love beings, here by choice, all powerful, can write the script. And there's a little bit of me in everyone and a little bit of everyone in me. I tell my audiences who are really close to my work that, there's really only you and more you. And this is the definition of self that begins right now, expanding and expanding. We all have more empathy because that's our nature, more compassion because that's who we really are. And the law of attraction, one of the things that vexed me a little bit after The Secret came out, was the fact that, there were probably a lot of people who thought, well, dang, that's a great way to look at life. Dang, that's an option. Well, I always knew there was a power to positive thinking. There are legs under the table, Brian, and that is stemming from the nature of reality and who we really are as spiritual beings, as creators. And it's not just our positive thoughts that have power, all thoughts have power. And it's our choice, as you were saying, to choose wisely, but it is our nature to choose wisely as well when we rid ourselves of the fear born of ignorance. And so there are legs under the table. They are these truths that I've already enumerated. There's only love. We're all one. There's only the divine. Everything plays to a greater good. Our thoughts become things. It's as simple as that. And when you see these pillars, these immovable pillars that I just named, that there is only love. Sometimes love scared does some crazy stuff, some ugly, hideous stuff, but there's only love. That person felt vulnerable. That person was lost. That person thought that they were making the world a better place in whatever warped way their logic performed based on perhaps an extremely difficult upbringing. But that person can be rehabilitated, as all of us can be rehabilitated. In a moment, we can change the direction of our lives. There's that much grace. This is part of our divine heritage. You don't even have to ask for forgiveness, that you are aware it is done. You realize the folly of your ways and the harm it caused. Now you'll never have to learn that again, and neither will the rest of humanity have to learn it in exactly the way you did, because you learned it for us. So our mistakes are shared by all, and our triumphs, which far outnumber our mistakes, are shared by all. And when people get a whiff of the truth, they become supernatural. Miracles are an automatic byproduct. I mean, Jesus-like miracles, not just, oh, wasn't that a nice serendipity? I mean, you want it, you get it before you even asked kind of miracles. And if you want to bilocate or work on your clairvoyant abilities or teleport, or I mean, anything Jesus said, and I'm not a Bible toter, I'm not of a religion, but the things I've done, you can do and more. You will do and more. And this was the prophesied second coming, totally misunderstood, like those other key ideas that I shared, apocalypse, Armageddon, etc. The second coming is the second coming of Christ consciousness. Jesus had awoken through revelations of the truth, through being sincere, humble, and going within and asking the big questions, which any of us can do. Be like me, he said. You can do whatever you want to do. That's been turned into a religion, and he is your savior, and you must renounce all others and don't listen to the devil. You know, all that stuff got mistranslated. But the second coming was long been prophesied when Christ consciousness, not Jesus Christ. Christ is not a name. Christ is a designation. Christ is a title. The awakened one. The might be the literal translation escapes me right now, but it's like Buddha is the awakened one. Christ means the anointed one. And he was saying we're all the anointed ones. And so that kind of thinking, rather than being held and possessed by one person or very isolated characters on the stage of our past, Buddha and Babaji and some of the others, and there's been female, of course, awakened masters as well, will be embraced and accepted as our natural state amongst the population. That's the second coming of Christ that was prophesied, the end of ignorance. Therefore, the final battle, Armageddon, is at hand, and the payoff is out of this world. We're going to know who we are, that we are love beings, that we are creators, that our thoughts become things, and whatever we want to do, be, or have, we can. Particularly when we do it in service to others, not selflessly. That always riled me going to Catholic school. Nothing needs to be selfless, but when you start defining yourself as, those you love, those in your community, you want them to prosper as you're prospering, as I have experienced in these past couple of decades. It's like, man, everybody should have it this good. Everyone should have health and be in love and travel the world and experience different cultures and see the smiles on the faces of those in Cape Town or Zambia. I was just there last week, and just see the goodness and the beauty that's everywhere. We've always lived in heaven on earth. It's just our fear has been so great, we didn't notice. And we're starting to notice. And this is what the Great Awakening is all about. And it need not be struggled for. It doesn't need to be hard work. You don't even have to meditate, which is good news for a lot of people. You just have to have that quiet space of reflection, that desire for a better world, that desire to be better yourself, and your intuitive nature will take over. Everyone is of good. Everyone means well. And for the outliers that really puzzle our brains and really have created chaos, okay, leave that in God's hands, if you will, metaphorically. Let somebody else figure that out. Our task right now is to figure ourselves out, one person at a time, and that will reveal our power. And when we move with it and we act the part of our divinity, which doesn't mean don't go have fun. That doesn't mean, you can't have too much. You can have as much as you can think. It's the law of attraction. The more you get, the more you inspire the world. It works that way. It really does. And so the best of times are at hand, and it's already begun.
So people that are listening to that are going to say, hey, look at the world. The world doesn't reflect that. And so, we have wars and problems and struggles and conflicts. So let's talk about that aspect of it in relation to the Great Awakening.
That was the exact question I asked one of my featured teachers in our upcoming book, The Great Awakening. I asked Sarah Landon, who channels the council. I said about 4 or 5 years ago, when I was like hot on self-realization, enlightenment, just read finally Autobiography of a Yogi, and there's all these accounts of, mystics doing miracles in India. I was like, oh, it was riveting. I was finally ready for that book. I said to the council, it looks like things have never been so bad on planet Earth. I mean, the divisiveness, the language, the behavior, the ignorance, the stupidity, like Oh, it's heartbreaking. And they replied, it may surprise you, Mike, but at the same time as you are seeing what you just named, there has never been so much love. There has never been so much transparency. There has never been so much cooperation among individuals, family members, nations. There has never been a better time on earth than there is today. There's always been the wars and the divisiveness and the hatred stemming from the fear, but it's been bottled down. It's like, we don't talk about that. You know, we don't use those words in public. We don't go there. We understand at home, a home of fear. But we are actually, as we look around, able to see this cooperation, this transparency, these discussions. There's always been war, and it's hideous, and I don't like it. I wish it wasn't here. But we have to understand that each of us is on an awakening adventure, if you will, beknownst or unbeknownst, and everyone is on the path to finding out the truth of who they really are. Again, it's such a simple truth of the divine, by the divine, for the divine, in a reality that's held together by love. We are creators. We are, it was said in, again, drawing from ancient literature, made in the likeness of God. Each of us are like holographic duplicates of all that is, of source energy. And so, you know, I've done some stupid things in my life. I've done some things I'm embarrassed about. I've done some things I would never mention, thought some things that I never should have thought, believed things that were absolutely ridiculous and not helping anybody, including myself. But my journey, and this is how it works, this is the art of life and the art of consciousness as it begins to bloom. My journey has taken me to those people that would press my buttons and those circumstances that would bring me to my knees so that I could learn exactly what I most needed to learn. Life in the here and now is so similar, if not totally identical, to life in a dream at night. When we dream at night, you know, to the dreamer, it's real. It's very real, with racing heart and sweaty palms or argument or joy or whatever. It's real to the dreamer. But when you wake up, you can look back and you're like, oh, that was just a dream. You know, that was just a dream. It was just a dream, but it was real. And that is true of our adventure into the jungles of time and space, these sacred jungles of time and space. It is real, but it is also just a dream. It cannot take away from the magnificence of eternity, which is our birthright for every single one of us. Nothing can tarnish the magnificence of love and beauty that still is part of our everyday lives. And so when you understand in a nighttime dream that they provide therapy, they provide entertainment, they provide a good laugh, they provide an emotional release. All these things happen in our nighttime dreams. None of them are random. You don't stub your toe in a nighttime dream and think, well, you know, that was just a random carpet or a random splinter on the wooden floor and I stubbed my... There's going to be meaning. There's going to be something going on with either your view of mobility or self-confidence. You know, everything that happens to us bodily is a metaphor, a poetic metaphor of the clarity or lack thereof in our mind. This is kind of well known in metaphysical circles, but there is this relationship where when we have confusion here, it shows up in our body. It's well known by many that cancer is often, and there's always unique exceptions, cancer is often the product of anger that was repressed. Those worried about their financial future tend to have back problems. Those who've lost their footing in life, like I did as a late blooming first time dad, I'm in my early 50s and I finally had a child. My feet hurt, plantar fasciitis. I never pronounced that affliction properly, but there's this poetry. Louise Hay, as you likely know, wrote a book, You Can Heal Your Life. And in it, she's got an index that takes up the majority of the book. You look up any common ailment from hiccups to heart disease to pink eye to cancer, and there are the likely corresponding issues in your thoughts that, if cleared up here, can clear it up elsewhere. Continue to see your doctor, listeners. I am not a doctor, but there is this connection. And this all goes back to what I was saying earlier about, the chaos in the world. And like, this person said that, and the other person did this. They're going through their own custom tailored baptism, literally, that will teach them what they are most missing. And when we go through a setback, when we all of a sudden face an unintended manifestation that seems to set us back, it's not random, and it was not a mistake. There's a lesson to learn. Learn the lesson, and you'll never have to repeat it again for the rest of your life, and the upward spiral takes off. Whatever you're dealing with, whatever has shown up, no matter how seemingly random, is by design and is therefore your spiritual work. This is one of the keys I got from my featured contributors in the book, The Great Awakening, as well as techniques as to how, through contemplative thought or thoughtless meditation, whatever suits the reader, can find some traction and unravel their confusion. If you will, life is this journey from confusion to the light. And until you have joy, peace, prosperity, on your terms, whatever that is, if that's enough food, fine. If it's $1 million, fine. You get to decide. Until you have these cylinders firing, as you now wish them to fire, you've got confusion. You're not seeing your power. You're not seeing the infinite possibilities. You're not recognizing that your positive thoughts are 10,000 times more powerful than your fearful thoughts. You're not recognizing that you are supported in the unseen by spirit guides and angels. You're not recognizing that there is a way forward. The perfect path awaits you. But you want to know these truths so that you can have some confidence as you go out the front door and meet the world, and not misinterpret, everything that doesn't happen the way you want it to be as a slight or a misfortune or proof that the law of attraction doesn't work. You start using it deliberately and thereby get your groove on. So sorry for that tangent or multiple tangents, but the chaos in the world is perhaps louder now, but it was always there. But simultaneously, if you take the invitation of the council as I did, and you look to the beauty, the hope, the potential, the kindness, everywhere, it starts replicating. And this is what our focus does. You get more of whatever you focus upon. You see more of what you choose to see. And if it's the pain and the suffering, it's going to take you down if that's all you choose to see. And I know it's bad, and they deserve your love, and do what you can to help. It's just another part of you that's tripped and stumbled. But at the same time, follow your heart, move with love, be led by joy, be of service in a way that thrills you, not in a selfless way, in a self-full way. And then, oh my gosh, it gets easier. You see more joy. You see more harmony. You find more synchronicities lining up in your favor. You're like, dang, I was just thinking about that. Or I was just thinking about them. Or dang, I was wondering about how I might write a book, and now here's the perfect example. Or whatever it can be. All that you need is constantly being delivered to you. And when you get in a place of understanding this is the nature of reality, you start expecting answers, solutions, a way forward. You start gaining clarity. Your load is lightened. It gets easier and easier. This is where we are.
What I love about the different channelers that you've talked to is a lot of them are very specific. And one ongoing discussion we've had with our channels. I read the Law of One channelings, the Quo
I've read
channeling.
those books. I've got them right
Yeah, and
here.
so it kind of paints a picture of what happens on a planet when it goes through this third density shift. And there's a group of people that are sort of indifferent, that are stuck in sort of a vacuum of indifference that are, and then there's the people that are all about serving themselves. And it's a very small group, but they seem like there's more, but it's a very small group. And then there's the rest that have said, I make this choice. I choose love. I choose to serve others, and they're being given catalysts and opportunities in their awakening experience to learn how to serve and love in that process. And so I see the world through that lens, from the way that these channels have described it. And I just see this mind war going on. A very small selective group of people who are deluded or ignorant have chosen, hey, I want to serve myself, and I want everybody else to take my side of the view. Some of these people have power. One thing you mentioned, it can also be at the same time a catalyst that leads me more to love when I see those different elements. But I wanted to get your feeling of when I look out at the world and I see this movement toward, hey, there's an awakening happening and I can create, but I'm going to create for myself, this little mind battle that seems to be happening on a larger scale in this moment.
It is, and you rightly said that it's the minority, but it's a really loud minority, really distracting. And and what you said, including from the Law of One, how there's this kind of purgatory where people are just kind of like, in stagnation,
Mm-hmm.
um, that all speaks to free will. We have total free will. But we can ask for help. And that's one of the biggest messages in this book. You can ask for help. And so, what I would suggest to anyone is to realize that their happiness, their path, their joy is truly dependent upon their choice and focuses now. And drawing from Bashar, he's got a spiritual toolkit that he shares with readers in this upcoming book, where he says, follow your highest excitement, do everything you can in the direction of your highest excitement. Don't judge what shows up, like we've just been saying. You can't interpret it. The thing that happens next might facilitate your dream coming true, but it might be so different than what you thought. You're liable to jump to the conclusion like it's not working. As soon as you go in that tailspin of it's not working, when in fact it was working, but it was just going to show up in a different kind of way, that tailspin can deflate you entirely and you lose all momentum. And number 4, Bashar says, and this sounds kind of so simple, and I know that positive and negative are loaded words, but you get what I'm talking about. Maintain a positive outlook. Like, whatever is showing up, whoever seems to be leading in the polls when you most don't want them to lead, it's like, just have a sense that this is going to work out for the greater good. This is going to serve me. This is going to serve all people. I'm not going to interpret that. I was just reading some or rereading some of Bashar's words about maintaining a positive outlook. I had just entered into a business contract. I was really sure on the next morning that I had made the biggest mistake ever. Like, oh, what was I thinking? And oh, I can't believe it. And oh, well, this is, how can I get out of this? And, like buyer's remorse. And I remember those words and I remember thinking, how can this serve me? How can this be tweaked? Where's an opportunity to use this to go somewhere that's not been considered by any of the parties so far? And all of a sudden, these thoughts just grew in my mind of the possibilities that were better than I had ever expected, better than earlier discussions had led to. And when I shared the news, half thinking that they would be rebuked, like, oh, what's wrong with you? You got cold feet. It's like, they were like, oh my God, great idea. Was thinking the same thing myself. And it's like, now there's this trajectory of upward and positivity and greater returns than had earlier been expected. And I got to say, that stuff, that turn of events would not have come about if I had gone into this downward spin. It was like, look, It is what it is. I've signed what I've signed. How can we make the best of it? This is absolutely going to serve me, even though I couldn't see it at all. Like, how can this serve me? What if we tweak this? What if we adjusted there? It's like, oh my gosh. It was a phenomenal 48 hours, like one of the most exciting and best learning experiences I've ever had. And it stems from, like I was saying earlier, you stub your toe in a nighttime dream, there's meaning there. Learn the meaning. If you stub your toe in life, if you get cancer in life, or some diagnoses you don't want to get, some phone call that seems to turn your whole world upside down, there's meaning there. There's a gift there. Things are about to get better there. Maybe not with who or how you can conceive of with our limited brains wired to the illusions of time, space, and matter. But if we can take that higher perspective that's enabled by understanding greater truths, for having answered earlier questions, of which we've all just covered in this short conversations, like life's not hard. It's simple. You're powerful. You're God. All things are possible. When stuff shows up, don't judge it critically. Look for the best. Look for the silver lining. That's awakening. And then your vibrations rise. And just to a point of clarification, these channels in my book, as many others out there, Earth has pretty much been a third vibrational school, third density. Since 2012, December 20th, 2012, the solstice, the end of the Mayan calendar, which heralded the beginning of a brand new Mayan calendar. It wasn't supposed to be the end of the world. It was the end of those times. Now we're in new times. That signified a shift into fourth density vibrations, which is much higher, much, much higher. And within each of the third density, fourth density, fifth, I mean, there's potentially room for many millennia. Doesn't have to be a long wait, but we are now in fourth density as a planet, and the majority of the citizenry. Some are in fifth density. Fourth density is I think unity consciousness, when you start seeing yourself in everyone. Fifth density is the density of love. Sixth density is Christ consciousness, which undoubtedly there's always a few trailblazers. Some are there now. And the higher the density, the easier you're living, the more their love, the greater the clarity of truth. And then it never, ever ends. Although I think seventh density is non-physical. The vibrations are so fast that you don't play in the soup that we're now in. Although you have to give up some of the perks, like the incredible taste of coffee in the morning, or the view of a sunrise or a rainbow. They don't have the sharpest delineation for the senses. They don't have the senses, but we've got these senses, and they can make for such a delightful experience. It's awesome to be where we now are. Although when our lives are riddled with fear, it can be quite painful. That's all subsiding. That's what the Great Awakening is all about. And there are things we can do, namely moving with joy and understanding these simple truths, to hasten the acceleration of our own ascension. And ascension just means raising of vibrations. It means nothing else. You don't have to buzz off. You don't leave planet Earth. Ascension is just the natural course of our awakening. And it's happening right now, and we can accelerate it.
So you have some amazing channelers in the book. I'm so excited, some of the very best. I wanted to know how you evaluate a channel. Sometimes when I hear a channel, gosh, that's not authentic to me. It doesn't vibe with me. So I just, ignore it. And then you come to one and it just feels right.
Yeah.
And so, some people will argue different channels, and it's always a very personal choice. But
Yeah.
what framework do you use to analyze a channel and decide whether it's authentic for you?
That reminds me of the first time my mother, I think I was about 20 years old, so 43 years ago. I was at University of Florida. She was a big reader. I wasn't a reader. She had stumbled upon some books like Psycho-Cybernetics and The Inner Game of Tennis and stuff that talked about creative visualization. She was on the edge of woo-woo back then. And she said, "You'll never believe this book." In my once a week phone call on a landline, calling mom, "This book is unbelievable. The author is Seth, and Seth is a disincarnate being channeled by Jane Roberts, the true author on the cover of the book, Jane Roberts. She goes into trance, channels Seth, and her husband sitting beside her takes longhand dictation, and they're just churning out book after book for Prentice Hall back in the day. And she said, "It's amazing what Seth has to say." And I was like, "Mom, you've lost it. This does not compute. This is not a healthy conversation, and there can be nothing good that comes from a woman in trance. This is crazy." And she's like, "Shut up. I'm sending you the book. Read it and see what Seth has to say, and then judge, big guy." And yeah, it was mom. She's always been the guru of my life. And so I did as she said. I read the book, and every speculation I ever had on the nature of reality, and I speculated in my teenage years that time was illusionary, that everyone must be of God, that there can't be anything not God, that there can't be a devil or a hell. It just makes no sense with a mind that could create this bastion of order floating, hurling through the cosmos, to be so petty as to, send his own creations to hell for eternity. Wouldn't God be big enough to kind of say, "That's on me. You're my child. You made a mistake. I'll own it. And we're going to rehabilitate you." I mean, wouldn't that be the least God could do? So all of a sudden comes Seth. Seth not only, hit all of my check boxes and echoed what stirs in all of our hearts and minds, but then Seth went on and went where my mind could never have gone. I mean, even in a scientific nature, speaking of the cosmos and species and development, but all wrapped in a present of love, with the sole intention of empowering people. And ever since that time, I've been like, okay, I will never judge a book by its cover or an author by her trances. Mom was totally right. It blew my mind wide open. And now there are so many books that are really awesome and they're channeled. But here's my little test, if you will, Brian. Thank you for asking that question. If an idea, wherever the hell it came from, trance or non-trance, my dog or my brain, if an idea either speaks of life's beauty or our power and leaves no one behind. It can't be like, well, donate over here and support this cause and don't, eat pickles on Wednesday. Well, then this is going to apply to you. Look, if an idea speaks of life's beauty or our power and leaves no one behind under any circumstances, that's my little litmus test. Then it's probably truth. And if I can resonate with it and see value for my life immediately, for getting my groove on, for living deliberately, creating consciously, more joy, more prosperity, more love, then I'm going to read the second book and the third book and probably practice some of the techniques if they're offered at all. And so going back to what we said earlier, Brian, the truth is resident in all of us. We are eternal beings who have fleetingly forgotten the choice to be here, to bring on an adventure of unimaginable proportions. It's unreal to live in these illusions and not know of your power. It's unreal to live in this complex world scientifically, without realizing that you're a creator. That was the nature of our adventure and why we're here, playing out our lives metaphorically in the palm of God's hand. We're going to live beyond this. We're going to wake up and be like, that was one hell of a dream. but there are these truths, and these ultimate truth is that we are of the divine, that we are wired into it. And so when we are exposed to truth, and it is absolute, it is not wishy-washy, there are no gray areas. When we are exposed to it, answering your question, we light up. It's like, I knew it. I knew it all along. I knew I was powerful. I knew that I wasn't being judged. I knew that there's still infinite possibilities. I know that I don't have to go prostrate myself and give up all my possessions. I knew that those things were just bad translations of ancient texts. And that's what it's like when people saw The Secret. For the most part, it was like, I knew it. I knew it. And yes,
Yeah,
there's a power to
exactly.
positive thinking. It goes deeper than that. There's a power to all thinking. But then you discover, I've discovered this a long time ago, you don't need to worry that you worry, because that's part and parcel of living in the darkness, which is where we still are for the most part, because we are so inclined to succeed, so inclined to meet with success, so inclined naturally, default settings to live in prosperity, health, friendship, cooperation, joy, laughter, that your negativity, so long as there is some entertainment, creative visualization, or at least positive thinking in the other direction. I've been through several episodes in my life where I was not only terrified of losing my job or being fired or running out of money or going bankrupt. I could not stop the runaway train of fear. And by the time some of these crises were upon me, I already knew that my thoughts become things. I'm like, I can't stop worrying. I'm doomed. Oh my God. I wonder if the pink slip really is pink. No, don't think that. I wonder what it's going to be like if I have to sell my home. What if I have to sell my home and nobody will buy it? Oh my God, my life is over. Oh, the best is behind me. Oh my. And I couldn't stop, but I learned I could always start a new train running. So there's this runaway train of fear. I've learned just let that baby run. You just go ahead, worry your little self sick, okay? But simultaneously, start a new train running. Simultaneously, start entertaining thoughts of grandeur. And even when I would visualize during these fits of fear, during my creative visualization session, I would start worrying again. Like in the middle of my 5-minute timer, I'm going to think the good thoughts. It's like, I wonder if there's a shelter that will take me. It's like, stop that. And I still prevailed. Every single time I still prevailed, because not only did I let the negativity run on, I let it happen. I tried to curb it to the best of my ability, which is pretty bad, but I always started another train. I did my best to visualize things turning around. I did my best to visualize my name on a book cover. I did my best to visualize, a bank account with 6 and 7 and 8 figures in it. It seemed pathetic for what I was facing at the time. But not only did I do that in my feeble way, just a few minutes a day will offset 18 hours of waking fear. 5 minutes of positivity will offset 18 hours of waking fear. Follow that up with a couple of little baby steps in the direction that you think you ought to go to do your best to shift your circumstances. You cannot fail. You cannot fail.
Your greatest contribution to me in my learning from you as a student has been to just forget about the how. Like you always say, there's a natural part of my brain. How does this work? How is this happening? And I have some physics or some, and who cares? Who cares? Like, who cares?
The
how
cursed
does not
hows.
matter.
The cursed hows is what I have called them in almost all of my books. And thank you for the nod there. I appreciate that very much. Coming from you, my gosh. But we have been erroneously taught that you better figure it out, young man or young lady, because no one's going to figure it out for you. And we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We think that we are merely mortal. We think we need to be in the right place at the right time. Only the early bird gets the worm, and opportunity only knocks once. So you better batten down the hatches and do all you can, blood, sweat, and tears, because otherwise it's not going to happen. And that was a load of garbage. It does not work that way. The brain was not designed to calculate the trajectory of 8 billion other co-creators on planet Earth to find you at the right place at the right time. You cannot do that with your brain. It wasn't designed for that. The brain and our conscious operating system, the ego, is designed to help you assess. Do you like this? Oh, good. More of it. Focus on that. You like this? No, not so much. Change the picture. Meaning, the picture of what it is you want, meaning your desired end result, not your idea of the best path there. Forget that. What is the new picture? This is why vision boards are so powerful. A picture of pictures that are emblematic of the life you'd like to live. That's what a vision board is for. It's like, that's who I really am. Those are the kind of places I'm going to go. That's the kind of car I'm going to drive. That's the kind of style I'm going to travel in. These are the kind of friends I'm going to have. And put some pictures of yourself up there in happier times. By taking your thinking to your desired destination, just like GPS navigation, you get in your car, you put on your seatbelt, you turn on the engine, you program the system, not with how you're going to get there, because you don't know. You've never been there before. Metaphoric for living the life of your dreams. You've never been there before. You program the destination. I live in Orlando. I program South Beach, Miami. Okay. I don't know how to get there. Never been there before. Actually, I have. But you've never been there before. And in the instant you program the destination, it calculates every how, every who, every when, traffic detours, construction, traffic jams, and it knows, but it's not telling you, it knows the shortest, quickest, happiest way for you to get there. And it remains silent, and any driver will tell you, silent until you put your car in gear. If your car's in park, you're contradicting. I want to go to South Beach. Let's see what happens. Nothing happens. Your life goes nowhere. Nothing changes. If you're sitting on the couch waiting for Oprah to call, you've got to put your car in gear. Well, I don't know how to get there. There's no wrong road. Whatever direction you go, you could go the opposite direction and guidance will be forthcoming based on your programmed destination. Make a legal U-turn, right? You can go in any direction so long as the wheels are moving. Only then will the direction be forthcoming. Then the speakers talk to you. Then it tells you, go straight on A1A, go south 12 miles, make a right on Alligator Alley or whatever, wherever you're coming from. But there is no guidance if the contradiction exists and your life is in park. Because you're saying not yet. I don't know how to get there. Not yet. My ducks are not in a row. The mama duck, I'm getting all of my old tools. My tool chest is here and I'm pulling out my old stories. The mama duck never waits for her baby ducks to line up. Whether she's crossing the road or going to go for a swim, mama duck just goes. And then the babies see it and they all line up and follow mama duck. It's the same with our ducks in life. They don't line up. If you're waiting for your ducks to line up before you pursue that big dream, they're not lining up. Not going to happen. But if you do what you can with what you've got, no matter how seemingly insufficient, no matter how embarrassing it may be beneath you, to just take those little baby steps. I mean, there was a time in my life it was embarrassing to be me, Brian. Everything unraveled. Girlfriend ran off with a guy, liquidated the business, didn't have enough money to coast for life. I had enough money to coast for a year or two. I had no job. I didn't want my neighbors to see me out there. I was like, what do I do? But if your car is rolling, the guidance is forthcoming, and your ducks line up, just do the best you can with what you've got. I tell people who are in the place that I once was, where things were really dire, I didn't know what my dream was anymore. I did corporate America and I left. I did the entrepreneurial track. It seemingly wasn't working anymore. Like, I didn't know. I was at the end of my micromanaging rope. This was the embarrassing part of my life. It was like, I didn't know what to do. If anybody listening is in such a quandary, you simply assess your sucky options. And they're only all sucky if you're in the boat that I was in. Hopefully that's not true for folks. But if necessary, to at least do something, because that's incumbent upon you now. If you want transformation, you have to be physically congruent with that, meaning do something about it in alignment with your destination. Then you assess your sucky options, choose the least sucky. Like, you got 12 options: flipping burgers, digging ditches, whatever. You don't, none of those are the life of your dreams, but you know you got to do something. Narrow that list of 12 sucky options down to the 3 least sucky. Give yourself a deadline, 48 hours, 36 hours, 60 hours, 5 days. Give yourself a deadline. I'm serious. And you start out on those sucky dirt paths. It's the dirt path that leads to the diamond mine. Okay. And invariably, you will start out on the wrong road. You always have to start out on the wrong road. GPS navigation. Sunset Avenue is not going to take you to A1A. There's no connection. But if you live on Sunset Avenue, you got to go down Sunset Avenue. Sunset Avenue will lead to, I-4. I-4 will lead to the Turnpike. The Turnpike will lead. So you're going to be taking a bunch of roads that are not the right road. Take them. Take them. If they're your least sucky option, if they make the most sense compared to the other ones and the most palatable, take them, not to learn to love them, but so that they can take you to a better road and a better road and a better. And then when you start realizing through serendipities and the way the magic of the universe works, so you can enjoy the journey that people have been saying enjoy without sweating it, without thinking you got to figure out the next how, the next how, the next how. Those are the cursed hows. They're not your job. You just need to knock on some doors, turn over stones. They ought to make some sense. They ought to feel right. Do your best. They might not be your ticket, but they'll lead you to your ticket.
The great thing
That's
about
the cursed house.
the great thing about everything that you said is that we can apply this on a global scale towards our awakening. We don't have to worry about how it's going to happen. We take responsibility and make those choices. And together, when we make those choices, we can move the entire planet to a planet of love. We can see it. We can work towards it. We can take action towards it. And it is possible for us to do it. I promise. And it doesn't matter if there's a part of you that says, oh, this is impossible. This is science fiction. Forget about it. We know our power. So if we can embrace what you're teaching, forget about how it's going to happen. It doesn't even matter. You make the choice right now, today, to be a part of this global awakening, that you are a part of it. And all of us listening are a part of it. And if we make that choice, your advice just now, just for creating and achieving your dreams, just for us achieving the dream of that new earth, that global awakening, it's that simple. Each of us making that choice, moving along this bridge of incidents to this new world, and it will happen.
Exactly. One person at a time. And no one needs to think, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to change the world. Change yourself. Love your life. That's the biggest contribution you can make. And when it comes to voting, go vote. Have your preferences, honor them, celebrate that candidate that you love without rejecting the other one, without resisting the other one, without adding to the furor and the chaos that's out there. Find your candidate, celebrate your candidate, and do what you can as you're called to, if you're called to get more politically involved. If not, you don't have to do that. Just find your light and start shining it. I can tell you, this will be the beginning of your happily ever after, even in the chaos we now see in the world. And I'll tell you what's going to happen in the election. The right candidate's going to win. And now when I say the right candidate, I'm not saying necessarily the candidate you think is right. I have my own choices as well. I hope my candidate wins, but it might be the best thing for our civilization is for the other candidate to win, which might bring about a greater acceleration in ways that we can't fathom today, to bring about that golden age that you will nevertheless be focusing upon now as you celebrate your preference in terms of candidates. So go there, celebrate, be the light, live your life, and then don't attach. If your candidate doesn't get elected, that doesn't mean that the best candidate got elected, but it will mean that the right candidate got elected for the learning and the growth and the glory of the masses. You can trust that the universe isn't going to flub this one. It never has. Everything plays to a greater good. And this is how we can find peace. And the political system is fraught with diversity as ours is today. Don't take sides. Just choose your candidate. Just like I taught an audience this morning, what's your favorite color? Is it orange? Does that mean green is bad? Are you all pissed off about green? Green was a big mistake, God. You know, green just really, the more you do that, the more you're going to get green. Celebrate your choice. And if green gets elected, well, so be it. I'm going to do my house in orange. I'm going to live my life in orange. I'm going to do things my way in orange. I'm going to follow the love and be the light and live my bliss. And then you leave room for avoiding that spiral downwards, that doom and gloom. Oh, this wasn't supposed to happen. Oh, the world's not ready. Oh, it's not going to. It is happening. It's happening for our greater good in ways that we can't see. Just do the best you can and detach from what unfolds and continue to do the best you can, and you will be assured of your own heaven on earth. And you will join those, as Bashar teaches, there's a splitting of realities into a multi-universe all the time. And there will be those who move to the land of good and plenty, and there will be those who prefer to live on a planet in a parallel reality dimension where there's strife and anger and fear and lots to be afraid of. Choose for yourself. Choose for yourself from the highest within and know that that's what's coming for you.
Amazing. And Mike, thank you. Everybody needs to check out The Great Awakening. It's coming out on October 1st. I will have a link in the description, in the comments, and we're going to have another interview too. I'm going to get to talk to Mike and some of the channelers that were a part of the book. So I'm really excited to do that. And also, I've had the wonderful opportunity to interview Sal Rochelle and Daniel Scranton. I've read some of Daniel's amazing channelings, which are in the book. So this is something we all have to check out. It's important because when I type in The Great Awakening, I get political discussions that have tried to hijack this Great Awakening. And we need to have this book to take it back, to take back what the Great Awakening truly is. And it's important. And so I'm thankful that this book is talking about the Great Awakening the way it should be, if you understand what I'm saying, in my opinion. So
thank you, Brian. Yes, it releases October 1.
October 1st.
So it's like 3.5 weeks away for release, but it can be pre-ordered at Amazon or pretty much any bookstore.
And be sure to leave
audiobook,
feedback. That really helps the book. When you buy it, leave feedback because it helps the book the way that the algorithm is on Amazon. We want everybody to see this book. So when they're logging in, we want people to see this book. It's important. So thank you so much. We will talk again soon, Mike, and welcome to the Reality Revolution.
Thank you so much, Brian. Keep doing your great work. Much love to everybody who attended and watched this program.
We return you now to your local announcement.